95% completed. A few little things, about 95% completed. A few little things to be done, but of course those would not really affect the use of the complex, right? So again, right, we must say thanks, regardless to what it is. We must say thanks, and it's a good thing to say thanks for the cultural complex, and we hope and pray that it would be utilized for the purpose for which it is being built. It would be totally utilized. Culture in Tobago, everyone is amazed at the depth, of culture that we have in this small 116 square mile island, and natural talent at that. And we urge the management of the complex, to utilize this talent in a way that people can become professionals in whatever they do, and they can be able to live by, by their dreams and what they love to do best, whether it's dance, sing, act, whatever it is. We urge the management to embrace these persons, and that it will be almost hassle-free for them to learn, to have a place to perform, and so that they can showcase their talent. Okay, viewers, we go for a break. When we return, we continue with our discussion. We go for a break and return to you in a moment. Welcome back to Rise and Shine, viewers. At this time on set with me, Mr. Martin George, attorney at law and a social commentator. Yeah, and this morning we are going to be discussing a number of important things, that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, we'll be discussing things like the response to the PM statement on the falling oil and gas prices, like the porous borders, in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, but Mr. George, good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine.
Hi, good morning to you, and good morning Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, and those listening in the wider diaspora, those who follow this program, wherever you are in the world, good morning to you. Okay,
our porous borders, I think we should tackle this one first. Right, information coming out of didn't emanate from Tobago Channel 5, but from another television station, goes like this, approximately close to 15 billion, I think it was 14 point something billion dollars illegal trade, cocaine, and other drugs passed through our region, mainly Trinidad and Tobago transshipment to Europe and the United States. And well noted was the number of murders that we are having, on a yearly basis, 400 plus murders, or close to that amount. And 70% of these murders happen by the gun, and Trinidad and Tobago do not manufacture guns. So let Tobago, let the world hear what is your take on, on these statistics, and maybe some of the things that could be done, but we'll go on what could be done later, but let's hear your take on
yeah, sure, no problem. Well, the thing is, the first aspect I would like to say is that I always like to keep my discussions Tobago-centered. In other words, while we always look at the scenario in terms of the larger picture of Trinidad and Tobago, I always like to keep our focus, make sure that we end up giving some positive solutions for Tobago. Because if you look at the larger picture, then you need to talk about things like the OPV contracts, which were cancelled, and then you ask yourself, well, what has been put in place to replace them? You've heard that the Minister of National Security has spoken about getting some vessels from the Colombians, but at the end of the day, none of this has materialized as yet. And one of the major factors which has created a difficulty and a deficiency in our marine patrols has been the dismantling of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Marine Branch. There is no functioning marine branch in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Can you imagine any first world country having a police service, being surrounded by water and having no police marine branch? So that has always been one of the major factors, and don't care how many times that has been raised as an issue. You've heard them, mouthing all the correct phrases about trying to revive it. Nothing has been done. So that's the first step. So if we are to call upon the Commissioner of Police now to do something, the first step I would say to him, get the police marine branch back up and running, outfit it with your own vessels, your own personnel, and you take charge of that. Don't rely on the Coast Guard. Don't rely on, any other aspect. You as the police, you ought to have your own men out there in the water, because you would have your intelligence, you would be able to conduct your own surveillance. You don't have to rely on second-hand or third-hand information coming from, the Coast Guard or other arms of the defense apparatus. You would be able to deal with things directly. So that's one of the major problems we have in Trinidad and Tobago.
In other words, you are the police commissioner. And you should ensure that your service is outfitted with all the gadgets.
That's
and
right. And I can tell you, in my capacity as a commissioner on the Police Service Commission, this is one of the things we have raised directly with the acting commissioner, and we've asked him what steps are being taken to reactivate the Police Marine Branch. He has indicated that he's working on it. Well, we sometimes get that answer and we get it again and again. So we are still waiting. But it's a major thing that needs to be done. In a Tobago context, I have said repeatedly, and I will say again, the THA needs to step up to the plate. In other words, when you look at the budget which is given to the Tobago House of Assembly every year, the allocation, okay, I mean, I know they sometimes say they don't get all that is allocated, but the allocation, that's on paper, the allocation is roughly about $3 billion, okay? That's like $500 million US. So if that's your allocation, then the THA needs to set up a security commission or a security department. Right now, the THA, when you look at the list of secretaries and the persons that they have nothing to deal with security. Now, I think maybe they got confused, because when you look at the THA Act, under the 5th schedule, it sets out the things that they can do, and then under the 6th schedule, it sets out the things that they cannot do. And under the 6th schedule, one of the things that the THA cannot be responsible for is national security. Now, nobody is saying that you are interfering with national security. We are talking here about island security. So in other words, the THA can take responsibility to start beefing up things for island security. We're not talking about national security. We're not going into policies and programs for the nation. We are saying, hey, listen, we have the responsibility to manage Tobago. You've given us that responsibility. You've given us the money. Let us see what we can do, what we can implement to start looking after the security of Tobago. Let me tell you something. The safety, security, and serenity, and seawater and sand, those 5 S's, that's all Tobago really has to sell. And you could probably add service. So if we do not offer those things, people will not want to come here. So if we are not proactive in taking steps to ensure our own security. You had the incident that occurred with the 2 Germans, the Kiels, on Bacalet Beach. The point is there any patrol boat at all patrolling our waters at night? We don't have this kind of thing happening. What you have is a knee-jerk reaction, like for instance when Minister Martin former Minister Martin Joseph passed away, then they said, well, oh, they tried contacting the Coast Guard for the Coast Guard to try and go on the scene. That's after the fact. We are supposed to have active patrols all the time because Tobago has so many little bays and little keys and little inlets. If you don't have any active patrol, then obviously it's open, it's an open Pandora's box for anybody to come in. So we need to ask our leaders in the THA, what have they done to start providing for the security of Tobago? It's very easy for them to sit back and blame the police service and say, well, we are meeting with the commission. All right, yes, fine. The police, they have their role to play. But what are you as the THA doing? What have you implemented? Have you set up a task force? Have you, have you hired a senior security consultant to start drafting a security master plan for Tobago? These are the things you need to do because the needs of Tobago are always very specific and different from the needs of Trinidad and Tobago generally, and you must recognize that.
Okay. Let's zero in on Tobago because I know you like to talk about us Tobagonians and our security, in particular Trinidad in general. The coastal boat, the boats that come here every 3 hours, they come in the morning, they would come 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 hours.
The Inter-Island Ferry.
Inter-Island Ferry.
Right, well, that's another area that I have spoken about repeatedly. When we're talking about securing our borders, and you're talking about the movement of arms and ammunition, you're talking about illegal narcotics, I have said repeatedly, the largest source of illegal guns and illegal narcotics coming into Tobago is right on that ferry. You have the absurdity and the patent stupidity, and I make no apologies for saying that, the patent stupidity of having a scanner and you are searching persons who are walking on the boat, right? So you have a scanner where they pass through the scanner. So therefore you are doing that metal detecting search for persons who are walking through. But yet still a man could drive on with a van load of guns, a trunk load of guns, and you have no vehicle scanner, you are not searching the vehicles. What is the point of that? What, you expect to see somebody walking through the scanner with an AK-47 in their hands and you say, oh, right, oh, we've detected. Ask the Port Authority, how many guns have they detected on individuals walking through that scanner? Let's be serious. I'm sure they will tell you it's probably zero. So the point of it is that it's an absurd, silly system. You're making members of the public walk through this scanner and you're not searching the vehicles, you have no scanner for the vehicles. So obviously, nobody's going to be walking through the scanner with an illegal firearm. They just put it in the trunk of a vehicle, drive on the vehicle, or they put 10 illegal guns, drive on the vehicle, and nobody's searching them, and they're happy. In fact, the driver of the vehicle doesn't even have to pass through the walk-through scanner. He shows his driver's permit at the gate and he drives on. So that is the biggest source, and I've said it repeatedly. If you want to stop the flow of illegal guns and ammunition and narcotics coming into Tobago, start with that ferry. That's your first point of contact. You have privately undercover police officers on the boat. You're supposed to have vehicle searches or scanners to deal with that. You're supposed to be checking them when they're going on, checking them when they're coming off. It might be a little bit of an inconvenience, but at the end of the day, if we don't take active steps to secure our safety here in Tobago, and you see, I'll tell you why I keep focusing particularly on Tobago. At the end of the day, when one looks at the statistics and the international image, it's Trinidad and Tobago's statistics worldwide present a fairly bleak picture when it comes to crime. But I have always said, if we divorce the Tobago numbers and the Tobago statistics, we are not as bad as it appears in the national average. So we must always make that distinction. Even our detection rates are higher than Trinidad. So therefore, we have some positives that we can show the world, but we need to work on improving and making them even better so that people can feel that sense of security. You know how many Trinidadians come across to Tobago for a vacation because they feel safer So we must preserve that safety and security. That should be the number one agenda of the THE. They are supposed to take the lead and show the island, well, look, this is our plan for your security. Instead, what you hear is them sitting back and blaming the police and blaming this one and blaming that one, or saying, well, we are going to have a meeting with the minister and a meeting. Come on, you have been given the mandate to lead Tobago and to run the affairs of Tobago. And I think the Assembly has failed. I'm sorry to say they have failed miserably on the job. When you look at them, they have not delivered for Tobago.
Okay. You know, I always like to look at television, you know, different stations and see different things. Mm-hmm. And I happened to see some time ago where the United States was, they just discovered that their shelves in the drugstores, in the supermarkets, and where, going dry, within a certain time that it shouldn't go dry. Let's say within 3 days instead of a week, right. 4 days. And they took steps to remedy that by purchasing another cargo ship. I think it was built in China or somewhere. But the capacity was 1.5 times the largest one that they had previously. And this ship, containerized as usual, but it was scanned. Everything on that ship was scanned to do a scanner.
You see?
You know, whether it's 500
and 500 so think of the capacity of that with cargo, and they are able to scan it. And you're telling me a small little ferry with a few people and a few cars and vehicles, and we are saying that we cannot scan this. The Tobago House of Assembly should take the lead and tell the Port of Authority and Ministry of National Security, hey, listen, we are going to partner with you to ensure that we get a scanner. Even if you don't want to put one in Trinidad, put it in Tobago at this end. So if you don't want to scan them when they're going on board, we will scan them when they're coming off. So in other words, listen, let me tell you, the scanner for vehicles is a drive-through scanner. So therefore, you let the vehicles drive through, you observe it. If you see nothing suspicious, they go their way. Yeah. If you see something suspicious, you say, okay, sir, go on this side, please. We just need to chat with you a bit. And the others go ahead. So it's a very simple process. It's not anything difficult. And this is why I keep saying we have accepted for too long the failures of our leaders in the Assembly, in that they've been able to pass the buck conveniently and not take proactive steps. Why is it that Tobagonians must be subjected to these things? Why must they? We have to be able to say, hey, listen, we've put you there to lead, or get out of the way.
Okay, well, we continue when we come back, Mr. George. We go for a break, viewers, and we return in a moment with Mr. Martin George. This morning we're talking about our porous borders and a little on the oil and gas lowering of those prices, the Prime Minister's statement. We go for a break and return to you in a moment. Come back to Rise and Shine, viewers. We open our line 6510005, 6511412. But on set with Mr. Martin George, where we continue the discourse this morning on our porous borders and the Prime Minister's statement. Mr. George, the Prime Minister made a statement on the 8th of, I think it was the 8th of January 2015. Not rereading the budget, but we are adjusting the budget downwards. Okay, cuts were made to several ministries, or from several ministries. Nothing is being said about the Tobago House of Assembly, whether their allocation is being cut. But I want us to deal with how do you think it would affect the normal man, the man in the street, that worker who works for the minimum wage and so.
Well, first of all, I would say that having listened to her, I'm not sure that she actually made the adjustment downwards. You know, she indicated that the Minister of Finance would. And in terms of cuts from ministries, I'm not sure that she indicated any such thing. Subsequently, I think when the Chambers of Commerce, the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, the Tunapuna Chamber of Commerce, the Chaguanas Chamber of Commerce, the Princestown Chamber of Commerce, when they complained, then she said they would have the ministers explain what the cuts would be.
Okay, Mr. George, we have a caller online. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, morning.
Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yes, morning and welcome.
Morning.
You know, I'm listening to Mr. George this morning, and I would say that I agree with some of the issues, but some of it I feel that I want to share my disagreement. One is the fact that on the issue with the THA and the port, I think Mr. George knows fully well that the THA Chief Secretary has been making a lot of attempt in asking for the representation on the state board. As it is, the THA doesn't have a representative on the Port Authority, which can see some of these things put into action. I think that this is important that Mr. George should be able to address. And there are some of the things, of course, it needs funding in order to do those things. It's not just you could just going inside the port and put up all these things if you don't have that responsibility. So I seem to differ on that view. While I believe that the scanner is necessary, that is an expenditure for the port. And therefore, the representative who the state has, who sit as a Tobagonian, ought to be able to ensure that these things are put in place to benefit Tobagonians. The other issue I would want to address, as I have you have Mr. George there, is that there is a flag being flown somewhere in his vicinity there in Bacalet. And I would want to ask him that in the night, it's a wrong protocol that the national flag is not to be flown in the dark, after 6 without being lit. So I asked him to correct that immediately. As a Tobagonian, we should know better. Thank you and good morning.
All right, good morning. Yes, in terms of the Port Authority, what we have heard is that the THA has said that they want a representative on the Port Authority board, and that's great. Of course, that's important. My point is that when you have the responsibility and you have an allocation of a budget of $3 billion every year, then if you look at what the cost of a scanner is, then it can be within your remit and your possibility to say, hey, listen, I am going to deal with this and I am going to